we have in the opposition to the present government a possibility of, as it were, a final gasp of revival, another break of life, because of the long historicity of proper moral values in Britain. It's conceivable that a new conservative government could revitalize the spirit of the country. Now, in that sense, I then say you can't revitalize Parliament unless you turn in another direction for the heart of your power system. If you go to the secret police and then the street police, because crime is inevitably on the increase, you're going to create eventually a civil war, which we don't want. The last thing Muslims want ever is civil war, and all intelligent people would agree. However, if you go the other way, and you go back to the roots of the British tradition and history, there are elements in it which are all compatible with reason, with justice, and with equity, all of which are the things exalted and supported and praised by a Muslim ethos. In other words, a fertile soil for Islam becomes possible. Now, in that, you see, the House of Commons is degraded and disgraced. The Home Secretary is illiterate, cannot speak the Queen's English, makes grammatical errors on a sentence basis. The Foreign Secretary looks like he was a floor walker in Marks and Spencer's. You can't run a great country with this level of performance. The Education Secretary is almost incomprehensible in speech. Now, in order to strengthen and give dynamism and inspiration not just to the Parliament but to the people, you have to go back to the one institution which has been, as it were, it's not been in the deep freeze, but it's been rather like in the basement of the British Museum. It's been crated and packed away, and that is the monarchy. Now, a constitutional monarchy, even though we have no constitution, but a constitutional monarchy as such is a contradiction in terms. When we say monarchy, we mean a rule that goes back to one person, that they have to be answerable to the people. It's not a dictatorship. It's not you see, there's 50 years of education, false education about monarchy, saying why should and aristocracy, why should they be in the House of Lords by virtue of the accident of birth? There's nothing accidental about birth. Birth is the most determined thing in existence. And there is a value in genetic transmission. So what I'm saying is we have to go back, we have to revitalize the ancient institutions of Britain, modernize them, and powers that were taken from the throne have to be given back to the throne. In Britain we are very fortunate because the son of the present Queen, someone that everyone has to admit respectfully does that duty that has been allotted to her, but it has no say in what happens. That son is, we know, has been intellectually and spiritually interested in Islam from his youth. He is knowledgeable about Islam. He has read about Islam. And that could not be more valuable to the Muslim community. He has two sons. The younger son is a loose cannon and has behaved very badly, and instead of being princely and raising up the people around him to an equally princely behaviour, which is the foundation of Henrician education of the dukes of England, he has gone down to their level, so he's become rather common, and indeed insulted his sovereign. The number one son of the prince, hereditary prince, has to be very careful, because if he does what Edward VIII did and marries, if I may use the phrase, beneath him, then he'll pay the same price that Edward VIII paid. They'll chuck him out. A marriage is not something like a celebrity marriage or the bald, cancer-ridden woman marrying the criminal in full view of all the British television. That is not how a prince marries. He marries dynastically for power, and that's an inescapable duty. But leaving aside the shakiness of the next generation, or the uncertainty, let us say, with Prince Charles, the Muslims have someone who can be their guardian. The only way he can do it is not by becoming Muslim. At this stage in the proceedings, that would be an invitation for the movement against him of very powerful forces in the country. What he must do is not try to be syncretic, because that is a Freemasonic action to say all religions are the same. If all religions are the same, then none of them are worth anything. And to his credit, many years ago, we know that he refused to join the Masons on being invited by the Masons to join them, and was therefore the first of the Hanoverian kings not to become a Mason. So his first responsibility, not ours, not the Muslim community, the prince's first responsibility, is to stand by the Church of England, stand by the Henrician cut with Rome. If he defends the cut with Rome, and Blair has tried to open up the extreme fascistic solution of Britain returning to Rome as a solution inside a capitalist ethos, if he stands by the Henrician contract, that he is the defender of, not of the faiths, because that is Freemasonry, the defender of the Christian faith, it's worth defending for that element in it which is the truth. That allows us to be Muslims in a Christian country. At the minute we're Muslims in occupied territory of atheists with a very strong Judaic influence. But again, he cannot do that alone. Therefore, to revitalize the country, House of Lords must be saved. The nature and principle of the House of Lords must be restored. It cannot be appointees of the political class who are themselves disgraced, so that the House of Lords is now full of that same scum that the Labour Party have in the House of Commons. So the House of Lords, a new aristocracy has to be created. Titles have to be created. Land ownership has to be recognised. Things that are dear to the Prince's heart. The reactivating of the Lord Lieutenancy of the counties, which was part of the very social fabric of Britain, that every county had a Lord Lieutenant who was answerable directly to the monarch. It was an honorarium by the time I was a child, but it existed, and it had a social function. That whole web of things has to be revived. Now, in that atmosphere, remembering we are a minority, they all talk about Shariat, and there's no issue of Shariat till there is governance. We are resident there.